I declare the motion negative.
Honorable Jeffrey LAM will move a motion on strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center and enhancing its competitiveness. 4 members will move amendments to the motion. The Council will proceed to a joint debate on motion and amendments. I will call upon Honorable Jeffrey LAM to speak, and then I'll call upon Rock Chen, Chun-ying, Robert Lee, and Dr. Stephen Wong to speak in sequence, but they may not move the amendment at this stage. The joint debate now begins. Members who wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. I'll now call upon Honorable Jeffrey LAM to speak and move the motion. President, I move the motion as printed on the agenda to be passed. Hong Kong being a financial services hub and an international financial center and headquarters for financial institutions. We have the rule of law. We have a low tax regime. The capital can flow freely in and out of Hong Kong. We have financial products and a large talent pool, our banking system, our securities and capital markets, our asset and wealth management, so financial services are performing excellent. And most importantly, Hong Kong has an international financial center role. And we also rely on the mainland and face the world, so we can serve as a bridge between China and the rest of the world. So as a national security law being implemented, our business environment is even more stable. And with the implementation of national security law, our IPO levels have reached more than 650 billion. And compared to the previous year, it has increased more than 30%, and the daily turnover is 150 billion. And prior 12 months to the implementation of national law, it is an increase of 60%. So that proves that Hong Kong is an international financial hub. Our business environment is attractive, and even though Hong Kong is a 3rd largest financial center in the world, but in the face of complexities, we cannot be complacent. The Lausanne School of Business announced in the World Competitiveness listings that Hong Kong's competitiveness ranks 5th and Singapore is 3rd, and they are the largest Asian country. So in the face of competitors in the region, we cannot be complacent. We have to move with the times. We have to strengthen our ties with the mainland, including cross-border Renminbi trade and real-time exchange platforms. We also need to cater to foreign investors and talent needs. During the pandemic, we have to protect public health and safety, and we also need to balance that with the economy. So enhancing financial enhancements, I propose the following 3 proposals. We need to facilitate a business-friendly environment and a tax regime that can attract capital to Hong Kong. That foreign institutes, when they choose the Asia-Pacific region or global headquarters, one important criteria is government policy, whether it is attractive. Now, even though a low tax regime, a simple regime, is one factor in Hong Kong's credit, but we cannot rely on that. We have to review our system. We need to maintain our advantage and enhance competitiveness. Looking at Singapore, in recent years, they have not only attracted investment via a tax regime and incentives, they also attract subsidiaries of major corporations. A lot of multinational companies, including large tech industries, set their Asia headquarters in Singapore. Now, currently in Asian cities, Singapore has the largest number of Fortune 500 company headquarters. And they not only provide job opportunities for locals, they also serve as a financial services trade hub. So Hong Kong, if we are to maintain competitiveness, We need different economic policies and incentives. The Hong Kong Chamber of Commerce has been asking for tax rebates, and the government is looking into this to encourage industries to locate in Hong Kong. We want to attract headquarters to come to Hong Kong. Second, we need to review our talent policy. We need to attract talent from different enterprises and industries. In the financial sector, we have to compete for talent. Singapore is always ready for combat. During the pandemic, their immigration rules were very aggressive. Now, looking at Hong Kong in the last 3 years, we have been tormented by social unrest and the pandemic. And in light of talent competition, it's undoubted that we are facing the biggest brain drain since 1990. I can see that some optimistic forecasts feel that talent will return to Hong Kong, but the reality is a lot of talent, a lot of people, they have relocated to Singapore or Doha. Now, if they stay for a long time in a location, especially if the whole family has relocated, then there's less incentive to come back to Hong Kong. If multinationals, if they find it difficult to retain talent, can local talent replace this vacuum? Well, a lot of technical skills, technical personnel, senior managers, this brain drain needs to be addressed. We need to adopt powerful measures. We need to look into carbon emission exchange. We need to look into attracting high-tech talent and provide more incentives for people to come to Hong Kong, including they need allowances for their children to study in Hong Kong. They need to be provided housing allowances. They need to develop their products and careers in Hong Kong. President. Third, we need to discuss reopening borders with the mainland. We have to reestablish our connection with the mainland regarding trade and the flow of human traffic. So these are of paramount importance. So I hope the incumbent CE and Carrie Lam can communicate with the mainland how to reopen the borders and also set up a schedule for reopening. We also need to concentrate our efforts to meet these conditions. Now, I hope that the government will provide timely quarantine measures for foreign talent to arrive in Hong Kong. Now, the quarantine period has been shortened, and we have more people coming to Hong Kong, but in recent months, overseas jurisdictions are relaxing their quarantine requirements, but Hong Kong's quarantine policy is still a major deterrent. So in the future, when the pandemic wanes off, I hope the hotel quarantine period can be reduced from 7 days to 3 or 4 days, or allow for home quarantine when feasible. Of course, we need to monitor the situation. We have to conduct testing and sampling, contact tracing, and so on. President, as the incumbent CE John Lee says, finance has been a traditional strength of Hong Kong. Now, whether we can fully leverage this advantage will be an important task for the next government. We are starting a new chapter. We need to build on our strengths and align ourselves with the national development. We need to strengthen Hong Kong's role as an international financial center. Chairman, that concludes my speech.
I now propose the question to you that Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion be passed. Mr. Rock Chan. Madam Deputy, one important role and contribution made by Hong Kong to our country is that we are an international financial center. However, for a long time we have implemented stringent anti-epidemic measure and the flight suspension mechanism, and these have dealt a direct blow to the operation of our financial market and the overseas talents' sentiment in staying in Hong Kong. However, I need to make it clear that I'm not suggesting a blanket relaxation of all these measures. On the contrary, I am urging the government to review the arrangements so that we can strictly abide by our strategy of preventing importation of cases and resurgence to guard against resurgence of domestic infections. We need to come up with a set of anti-epidemic measures with scientific backing, can be tested over time before we can relax travel restrictions. We need to review the scientific backing of the flight suspension mechanism so that we can progressively return to normalcy and resume our connectivity with the rest of the world. The ETOs of the government should also step up the promotion of talent admission schemes, and the government should also conduct a review on the attractiveness of the various talent admission schemes to overseas financial talents. If need be, more measures should be introduced, and we should also leverage on the unique advantage of Hong Kong as one of the cities in the Greater Bay Area. I have made 3 suggestions in the amendment to promote our development as an international center. In other words, we need to develop green finance and also promote offshore renminbi business hub. On fintech, we need to devise a strategy to prepare for the fintech infrastructure needed, and we should also attract local as well as overseas investors to develop fintech products to promote our leading position in the Greater Bay Area in terms of fintech. For example, we should jointly develop a cross-boundary faster payment system on the basis of physical currency and digital currency. For example, our FPS, the faster payment system in Hong Kong, should be aligned with the mainland's digital payment system. In the long run, Hong Kong should be developed as a testing ground for central bank digital currency of renminbi or e-renminbi, and we should set up ourselves as the center for digital trading. We are also the biggest offshore renminbi business hub, and we should bolster our status and further expand the pie. We should develop more channels for renminbi investment and increase the size of renminbi liquidity pool, and there should also be a system to introduce stock prices denominated in renminbi. We should also develop a real-time settlement system with other Southeast Asian countries. We should connect with the RTG system so that we can have a synchronized settlement approach in renminbi with other countries. Green finance is also the upcoming trend, and in this sense, we still have a lot of potential. We should expedite collaboration with carbon trading centers in the Greater Bay Area so that we can establish a standardized carbon trading center in the region and further expand ourselves as the #1 regional carbon trading center in the APAC region. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for his motion. I hope that this motion debate will spark the concern of the sectors and the government so that we can bolster our status as an international financial center and contribute to the country. I support the motion as well as all the amendments. Mr. Ronick Chen. Madam Deputy, it's been 25 years since reunification, and with our country's support, Hong Kong has overcome a lot of challenges, and we've continued to develop and our international financial center's status has been bolstered. In the 14th five-year plan, Hong Kong is encouraged to integrate into the overall country's development plan, and our status as an international aviation center and should also be enhanced. And we have other functions that should be enhanced, such as an offshore Renminbi business hub, etc. And the 14th five-year plan maps out the future development of Hong Kong and internationalization of Renminbi, fintech, green economy, digital currency. All these will become keywords in our development plan. We're now the third international financial center. This index is prepared by ZN, the UK think tank, and the Hong Kong Shenzhen Research Institute. Starting from 2007, the Institute ranked all the financial centers around the world, and the index is updated every March and September. The index is concerned with the flexibility of the market, adaptability and flexibility of the markets. Overall speaking, business environment, reputation, manpower, cost, infrastructure, and the level of financial development, all these elements are included. In 2020, in March, Hong Kong dropped from the third place to sixth place. And then every 6 months, we progressively return to the third position. However, for Hong Kong, Shanghai, Los Angeles, Singapore, San Francisco, and Beijing, ranking the third to the eighth, the overall score only accounts for a difference of 1 mark, and we are just slightly lagging behind Singapore in terms of the level of financial development. In 6 months, Shenzhen was able to climb 6 places. The pace of development is so quick, we should be vigilant. I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for his motion. He has put forward 3 suggestions. I urge the government to devise strategies to bolster our status as an international financial center. I will also support other amendments moved by members. For example, we need to enhance the regulatory regime, and we also need to strike a balance between regulation and development. There should also be more active approach in promoting our market to investors to tell the Hong Kong story well. However, when it comes to a private company, we would first compare ourselves with how we did the past year, and then to comparable counterparts in the market, and then we also compare ourselves with the counterparts in the rest of the world. And that is why, in terms of the global international financial centers ranking, we should continue to compare with our competitors. And in terms of the important parameters, we need to analyze and find out how big the gap is in order to formulate measures to close the gaps. According to the IMD's latest report on the World Competitiveness Index, it seems that we have improved, but we are still for a long time lagging behind Singapore. Because of travel restrictions due to the pandemic, in terms of attracting talents and capital, we are lagging behind Singapore. For the financial industry, there is a problem of brain drain and capital outflow, and if we do not introduce measures to attract talents, the gap will only become bigger. The CE designate, Mr. John Lee, said that we should take a target-oriented approach. This is one of the 3 major policy objectives of his government. So I believe that our status as an international financial center will become crucial to the next term of government. Mr. Lo Weining from Liaison Office once commented that if we don't improve, or if we only improve slowly, we are actually backpedaling, and that is why we should at least maintain our third place as the international financial center in order to keep our edge. We need to create a favorable business environment. We are highly globalized, highly marketized economy. I believe that if we are able to perform well, we will scale new heights and maintain our status as an international financial center. Mr. Robert Lee, I need to declare first and foremost that I'm also in the financial services industry. Madam Deputy, I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this motion on strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center and enhancing its competitiveness. As a member of the industry, I'm concerned about its development. Financial services serve individuals as well as different sectors of the economy. We create jobs and help resolve social conflicts. Now, in my amendment, I say that we should diversify the development of the financial sector. There should be a better balance between regulation and development of the market. And with the countries opening up, especially in terms of the financial market, there will be ample opportunities for us. The 14th Five-Year Plan categorically provides Hong Kong's position as an international financial center. In light of the recent global landscape and geopolitical tensions, our industry is facing a lot of challenges with increase in operating costs, and the government should therefore work proactively with stakeholders such as the stock exchange and mainland counterparts in tapping new markets. For example, for cross-boundary wealth management connect, we should strive for wider participation. There should also be widening of the scope of investments products allowed, and we should also promote the development of securities as well as futures, precious metals, corporate financing funds, and innovation fields, so that foreign-funded, mainland-funded, and local enterprises can develop business together and further increase the variety of financial products. In terms of market development and regulation, there should be a better balance, and we should focus on investors' education instead of limiting investors' choices and regulating financial intermediaries. For example, many bonds are listed but not traded on the exchange because of investor restrictions. We also have SPAC, and there will also be licensing regime for virtual assets, and I reckon there will be similar restrictions on investors as well. In terms of any money laundering legislation and licensing for virtual asset traders and a two-tier registration mechanism for the deals in precious metals, the industry is concerned about overregulation. We hope that the government will will give priority to market development in formulating these regulatory policies. Nowadays, many small to medium financing companies have been deprived of room to survive because of changes in the regulatory landscape. We have SMEs as well as those listed, and we also have professional accountants, auditors, and there was only one listing last year on GEM. We need more financing channels to help growth-oriented enterprises wishing to be listed but not meeting the criteria on GEM. According to research, the bigger the scale of your operation, the time needed for vetting the application for listing would be shorter, so on and so forth. In terms of enhancing our competitive edge, the government always places emphasis on our IPO listing performance. In fact, we have seen a drastic drop in the number of IPOs this year, and in fact, we should focus on other trading apart from IPOs, and there should be a review on the impacts brought about by the increase in the stamp duty on the stock transfer. At the moment, there are 5 types of fees and charges for stock transfer. Comparing to the U.S. market they set their fees at 0%. So we need to have more in-depth review and make improvements. I so submit.
So we need to strengthen Hong Kong's role and enhance competitiveness. We've heard the 4 amended motions. We are thankful for their input. As a financial center, we have unique advantages and a tradition of rule of law, a low tax regime, international business environment, and we have stable infrastructure, free flow of capital and information. Hong Kong, in implementing national security law and fine-tuning the election system, we are in a new chapter of governance. We are more stable, and it is advantageous for financial development. The 14th five-year plan.
The National 14th Five-Year Plan also supports Hong Kong in enhancing its status as an international financial center. Specific targets include reinforcing Hong Kong's status as a global offshore renminbi business hub, an international asset management center, and a risk management center, deepening and widening mutual access between the financial markets of the mainland and Hong Kong, and taking forward the high-quality development of the GPA. In developing Hong Kong as an international financial center, we have seen how the country's steady development provides solid backing for Hong Kong. Looking ahead, we know that serving our country's needs is the core duty of Hong Kong in developing as an international financial center. Under the dual circulation framework, our country's continuous reform, high-quality two-way opening up, ongoing renminbi internationalization, transformation to a green and zero-emission economy have brought Hong Kong new opportunities. To consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, we will follow closely developments in the country and international investment market and make good use of national policies and our own advantages and play a bridging role in the dual circulations framework. We will connect domestic and foreign markets and investors, assist mainland enterprises to explore the global market, and develop a more vibrant and diversified financial market in terms of the type of investment products, risk management tools, appropriate corporate financing arrangement, and treasury management needs. With the support of the Central PO's government, the SAR government strives to actively enhance Hong Kong's competitive edge as the country's international financial center, including strengthening our advantages in traditional financial sectors like wealth and asset management, securities and insurance markets. We will work to expand the mutual access between the financial markets of Hong Kong and the mainland, enrich Hong Kong's offshore renminbi financial products, and offer effective channels for two-way flow of renminbi funds between offshore and onshore markets, and further promote green and sustainable finance and fintech development. These measures can assist the country in promoting the financial sector's capability in serving the real economy, internationalization of renminbi, and deepening reforms of the financial market. Hong Kong is a highly open economy. We face grave challenges in coping with the complicated and changing external environment and uncertainties in the global economy and financial market. Thanks to a robust and mature regulatory regime and a stringent institutional framework for monitoring systemic risks, Hong Kong's financial market has demonstrated resilience and stability in face of the epidemic and the recent global market turmoil. The SAR government and financial regulators are watching closely market changes and risks and adopt a bottom-line mentality to formulate plans to avert risks to ensure that Hong Kong's financial market and financial system can operate in an orderly and smooth manner. We should also maintain stability and security in the midst of the market's high-speed development to allow Hong Kong to maximize its potential to become a more competitive international financial center. In its assessment early this year, the International Monetary Fund once again affirmed Hong Kong's status as a major international financial center and complimented Hong Kong for its robust financial regulatory and supervision framework. The industry continues to expand during the epidemic. The IMF delegation believed that Hong Kong's economy can even grow further. Favorable factors include faster than expected pace in the global economic revival and opportunities associated with the GBA. Moreover, the Global Financial Centers Index report published in March this year, Hong Kong has remained among the top in various areas of competitiveness, including business environment, human capital, and infrastructure. Hong Kong maintained the third place globally in overall ranking, once again reaffirming Hong Kong's position as a leading international financial center. In face of intense market competition, the SAR government abides by the principle that one will regress if one does not progress or progress too slowly, and we will continue to enhance Hong Kong's advantages in the financial sector. I'm pleased that Mr. Jeffrey LAM moves the motion today so that we can hear members' valuable views and have exchanges with you. Later, and my colleague at the CDB will respond to members' views and suggestions. Thank you, President.
From you.
Mr. Martin Yao. Chairman, I have to thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for providing us with a timely reminder given the U.S.-Sino trade conflicts and providing this motion and their 4 colleagues' amendments. Clause 109 of Basic Law ensures Hong Kong's role as a financial center, and Hong Kong has a tradition of the common law system, free flow of information and capital, a business-friendly environment, and a regulatory regime that is international in nature. All these are success criteria. Now, over years of development, Hong Kong is the third largest financial center in the world. And financial services also contribute significantly to our economy. But it's without doubt that Hong Kong's role is facing many challenges. First of all, the government has undertaken COVID quarantine measures that have affected Hong Kong's trade sector and has also hampered our role as Asian headquarters for multinational companies. And some multinationals have relocated to Singapore and Dubai. A lot of foreign financial institutions would have to send their staff to, even if there is a 21-day quarantine, they will still have to send their staff to the mainland. Now, the Lausanne Business School report published recently said that Hong Kong's ranking had dropped from the 8th to 20th, and I urge the government to come up with a blueprint for reopening borders. We need to relax tourists' quarantine requirements when they land in Hong Kong. We also need to have communication with the mainland regarding the opening of borders. At the same time, the government needs to promote Hong Kong more aggressively. For example, we need to join the RCEP. We have to encourage Southeast Asian companies to list in Hong Kong. We cannot be complacent and think that the business and human talent will reappear after the pandemic wanes. Now, in the face of competition, we need to stay on top of our game. The best way to retain talent is to strengthen Hong Kong's competitiveness. So this not only needs the government's promotion of our financial system development, we also need data, infrastructure, a tax regime, and nurturing and retention of talent. I believe we can strengthen our offshore Renminbi business and also green finance. For example, in green finance, Hong Kong needs to deal with our lack of green finance standards and also retain the suitable talent. We need to be able to deal with the business opportunities arising out of global climate change, carbon emissions, trading, and so on. We need to align ourselves with the 14th Five-Year Plan. And lastly, I'd like to point out, in the face of geopolitical challenges, aside from grasping the opportunities of mainland listed companies returning to Hong Kong Stock Exchange, secondary listing in Hong Kong, the government needs to be forward thinking. We need to maintain our financial security. Chairman, I support Mr. Jeffrey LAM's motion and amendments. That concludes my speech. Mr. Duncan Hsu, I have to thank Jeffrey LAM at this point for raising this timely motion. Maintaining Hong Kong's competitiveness, IT plays a significant role, and finance IT has also become a major industry in Hong Kong. We need to retain fintech talent. That is very important to our fintech industry. So in a recent interview, our government officials have expressed concern over the brain drain. The IT, and even in the government, we see a loss of human resources. The Association of Banks had conducted a survey of human resources development. 84% of respondents indicate that data and fintech are a significant skill gap in Hong Kong. Regarding the local brain drain, in the past I have mentioned this and drawn the government's attention to this. We need to enhance our labor force skill sets. Now, how do we retain local talent? How do we attract more mainland and overseas fintech talent to Hong Kong? That will be the next term of government's major challenge. Now, UST had conducted a report, and they had made 3 proposals regarding fintech. First of all, they want to provide internship opportunities for fintech students so that they can meet the market needs. There should also be a continuous professional development fund to help the talent on the job training. And third, we also need to review overseas recruitment procedures. We need to provide flexibility. We have to provide online remote working opportunities. Now, local universities and had provided a lot of training opportunities. In 2020, there was a cooperation agreement between Hong Kong U and where they provided a master's degree, and they provided a 9-month internship program where they could also get real hands-on experience. So we also have a blockchain center where there was a 3-month training program. So through promoting blockchain technology and an intelligent city framework, we can commercialize more research and throughout the GBA area. Now, all this is very promising. It can help plug the gap in talent, in our talent shortfall. But we still need to rely on other sources, such as recruiting overseas talent, and we need to have more researchers in Hong Kong. So I hope the government can issue visas to successful applicants and also review the different talent immigration schemes. So we need to simplify the rules, relax the quotas. Should they just be limited to top 100 schools to join our research? We also need to provide more flexibility for enterprises to recruit talent. And we also need to have independent experts to participate in the different immigration schemes. And I believe by doing so, that can speed up the vetting process and make it more efficient. At the same time, the government should also consider the immigration schemes the 2023 scheme, the immigration scheme, the threshold was set at 6.5 million, and that was increased to a further 11 million. Well, we should remove the threshold. Could we enhance it to a higher level, such as 30 million? Now, even with a higher threshold, I believe a lot of qualified talent are still willing to develop their career in Hong Kong. So having a regulatory regime, government policy support, Mr. Chen Ginbo. Thank you, Chairman. Given the competitiveness, Hong Kong's role is going to be further challenged. We need to enhance our competitiveness. Now, before 97, we had the low tax regime, we had a stable society, we had efficient government, and after 97, Hong Kong faced a lot of challenges, especially the opposition party had hampered development. It scared off investors, and our competitiveness had suffered. At the same time, Western countries are taking a hostile stance against Hong Kong. Hong Kong, if we are to maintain competitiveness, aside from aligning ourselves with the national plan, we also need to strengthen our trade financial hub status. Now, we've heard a lot of suggestions such as opening the borders, attracting fintech talent, fine-tuning our regulatory regime, attract overseas investors. I agree with that. I don't want to repeat, but I want to analyze in greater detail the issues we're facing. So in the past, we had the laissez-faire approach. We didn't want to intervene in markets. For example, if a person opens a store, they just believe that customers will come. They don't need to conduct marketing. They don't need to do market research. And all this is outdated thinking. Now, as a matter of fact, we had a lack of investors in the previous projects, and the Mainland is doing a good job in attracting overseas investment, and Singapore is also a good learning model. But Singapore is not doing any worse than Hong Kong. You have to understand the Mainland Singapore does not have natural resources, does not have the Mainland to rely on, but it has an aggressive government. They have an economic development bureau department, and every year they conduct more than a dozen business trips. So even these are led by their ministers, where they meet with investors around the world, and the different multinationals are attracted to Singapore. They also provide special incentives. For example, they have 10-year tax incentives for innovative companies. At the same time, Singapore government encourages foreign securities to headquarter in Singapore. They will even recruit listed companies to list in Singapore. So Singapore now has a headquarter economy. They are a financial hub. In comparison, Hong Kong does conduct overseas promotion. It has provided some incentives. But if you look at the mindset, Hong Kong is conservative compared to Singapore. They won't tailor-make incentives for enterprises. So when we compete with Singapore, we are competing and we're on a losing streak compared to Singapore. So we need a more aggressive approach, and we need more international investment promotion workshops to attract investment.
Mr. Frankie Yik, President. Hong Kong is an international financial center, has to do with our pillar industries, including trade, logistics, and shipping industries, and new emerging industries. So the government must strengthen and consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. 80% of the ships around the world are on marine transport, according to the latest statistics. Well, there has been a record high in the number of TEUs produced. If one ship carries 2 million TEUs, that means a lot of ocean-going vessels. So we believe that there will be an increase in the number of new ocean-going vessels, and shipping financing is very important. While the traditional European banks are the main players, but as ship ownership and ship manufacturing move to East Asia, Hong Kong must make good use of opportunities in shipping finance and insurance. We have good financing facilities. We can meet the needs of shipping companies in financing. So if the SL government can consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, it will help a lot more shipping, financing, and leasing activities to Hong Kong, so that Hong Kong can build itself into an international shipping financing center. We can also expand the, ship management, ship brokerage, ship financing, shipping insurance, ship registration, and maritime dispute resolution. To implement initiatives in the 14th National Five-Year Plan, which supports Hong Kong being developed into an international shipping center, the Hong Kong government has provided tax concessions to the relevant sectors. So qualified, shipping brokers are going to benefit tax concessions. The relevant legislation has received its first reading today. So we support the government implementing more tax concessions to bulk goods shippers, so that the relevant companies can set their headquarters in Hong Kong. In terms of talent, in 2012, in the relevant index, international index, we rank second in Asia and the 20th in the world. Talent is a crucial factor in promoting the shipping industry. Hong Kong's shipping industry has been lacking talents to address the problem. The government has established a shipping training fund. Its aim is to attract new blood and enhance service quality. The government should also take reference from the Civil Aviation Academy and set up a similar academy for the shipping industry to meet with the market needs. Now, if there are market opportunities, then talents from around the world will be attracted to Hong Kong. But in this global war for talents, if Hong Kong can provide more preferential policies like tax policies that will help attract more overseas talents to Hong Kong and contribute to the industry. To prevent importation of cases, the government has adopted stringent anti-epidemic measures. As vaccination rate increases and the subsidence of the epidemic, these measures have been relaxed. But compared to other countries, our measures are deterring people who would like to travel to Hong Kong for tourism and business from coming to Hong Kong. Overseas business investment enthusiasm has been dampened. And the Ship Owners Association said that its members intend to withdraw from Hong Kong. If the situation persists, that will deal a blow to Hong Kong's shipping industry and Hong Kong status. And I hope that the government can relax the measures as soon as possible. Mr. Louis Long. President, I'd like to thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this motion debate. The 14th National 5-Year Plan specifies supporting Hong Kong to enhance its status and as an international financial center. Since 2009, the Ministry of Finance has for 14 years issued several sovereign bonds, and the first batch was issued yesterday. And this goes to show that the central authorities support to for Hong Kong to become an international financial center in March this year. In the Global Financial Centers Index, among the 119 cities in the world, Hong Kong's ranking was maintained at 3rd place after New York and London. However, for the overall rating for those in the 3rd and the 8th places, the difference in the score is just 1 mark. In face of the complicated and ever-changing international situation and the epidemic, we should not rest on our laurels. We should prepare for the worst. In the past 2 years or so, the government has been adopting a stringent import control measures to guard against imported cases, and because of the flight suspension mechanism, that has affected adversely the flow of people and goods. So the situation is very difficult. In the Q&A session last year, the chief executive said, based on the discussion with the mainland last year, there is no possibility. It seems that we can reopen the border within a short time. But given our free flow of information, our infrastructure, while these have been operating smoothly during the epidemic, in terms of fintech, I noticed that the HKMA is now establishing the business data interchange and also conducting other studies. And the MPFA is also preparing for the establishment of the eMPF platform. And the People's Bank of China has been issuing the digital Renminbi starting 2019, and pilots have been conducted in various cities and provinces. So apart from the 4 proposals made by Mr. Lam, I support those. But apart from those, in order to consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center and enhance our competitiveness, there is one more proposal. We must improve our financial infrastructure. Last July, when the e-consumption voucher had the first day of registration, people had to wait for 1 hour through the IM Smart, and the identification of people's identity have failed. And then, because of malfunctioning, immediate repair works have to be undertaken, and service has been interrupted for 12 hours. And for FPS, the original maintenance work, which should last for 5 hours, but ultimately the maintenance period lasted for 12 hours. And just last week, a major bank network in Hong Kong has failed twice in a day, and their ATM machines have stopped serving the public once. So this reminds us that it's important for us to maintain the operation of financial infrastructure and maintain financial security. The CE-elect sets one of his 6 priority tasks as maintaining Hong Kong's financial robustness. And we must introduce capital to support the country's development. We must make no mistake in this. So I urge the government to enhance our financial infrastructure, safeguard our financial security, and consolidate Hong Kong's status leading position as a financial center. Dr. Lawai Kwok. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Lam for moving his motion and the 4 amenders. The motion seeks to urge the government to formulate specific policies to strengthen and consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center and enhance its overall competitiveness. These are aims supported by myself and the BPA colleagues. Mr. Robert Lee has deleted the whole need about relaxing the quarantine arrangements and also retaining talents in various sectors. Now, there are challenges worldwide, and we must promote diversified development of industries. We must support 4 pillar industries, including financial services industries. In face of intense competition, the 14th five-year plan specifies that support will be given to Hong Kong to turn itself into an international financing aviation center and to build Hong Kong into an offshore Renminbi business center. We must utilize strength of Hong Kong and contribute to meeting the country's needs. We must build a business-friendly environment. We must have innovation in the financial sector. We must enhance the financial sector's capability to serve the real economy. In terms of specific proposals, Hong Kong can focus on 2 areas with our advantages, and that is fintech and green finance. Fintech is using ICT to provide financial services. Hong Kong has the world-class ICT infrastructure, and our financial regulations are very clear. There is free flow of capital. That is a favorable factor for developing fintech and digital economy to benefit other sectors. Now, as there are more exchanges between Hong Kong and GBA, and Hong Kong's EID and our e-payment system should be linked up to the systems in the GBA to promote the establishment of a cross-boundary trade platform. Hong Kong can also leverage on its international experience to come up with a standard set of standards to facilitate the flow of people, goods, information, and services. Now, green transformation is another trend to achieve carbon neutrality. In the 2021 policy address, in the next 10 to 20 years, the government will commit $240 billion to implement measures to respond to climate change. In fact, development of green finance is a strategy adopted worldwide. In 2018, November 15th, the ELECTRO has also endorsed a resolution to implement the government green bond program. As chairman of that committee, I supported that. And on top of that, the government must also strive to become a premium financing center for green companies. I have served as a chairman of the HKQCAA, and this is a leading certification body in Asia. It can play an important role in promoting green finance and development in Asia. Now, they started conducting the relevant studies in 2016, and they are providing third-party certification for green bond issues, and that was launched in 2013 to promote the credibility of green finance and investors' confidence, and to promote the development of green industries in the GBA. We must do more to consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. We must prepare for any crisis, and we must strengthen network and data security. We must improve our financial regulatory regime, and in face of new situations and possible crises, we must come up with a preparedness plan. I so submit.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Jeffrey Lam, for your motion and other members' amendments. Mr. Jeffrey LAM had put forward 4 suggestions, including making Hong Kong more business friendly, having a more friendly tax regime. I agree with all that, and I would like to expound upon 2 points. First, we have to look at the market and the regulatory regime, and to help the financial sector. After enactment of national security law, the business environment had been fine-tuned, but some industries are not don't have a rosy future. As of end of May, 31 securities companies have closed down or gone bankrupt. As a matter of fact, this bankruptcy wave is indicative of the securities industry future. Now, other industries are also facing difficulties. So, during difficult times, how can we provide financial support, and how do we provide policy support? How do we improve the business environment? Well, on one hand, the financial sector, we need to enlarge the cake. In this regard, we have to make good use of the mainland Hong Kong through train, the capital through train. We have to enlarge the market share. We have to allow financial services in Hong Kong to develop business on the mainland or overseas. They have to allow for remote account opening, allow financial institutions, whether they are large or small, they need to find new growth areas, and the government's regulatory regime should strike a balance between development and regulation. When there is a downturn, there should be policy support, there should be waivers of fees. On the regulatory side, we need to provide SMEs with sufficient development opportunities, and that can enhance their business environment. The other side of the coin is the tax regime. We need to make it attractive for talent to work in Hong Kong. For example, financial talent in Hong Kong would be deterred by high cost of living, and that would hamper their desire to stay and work in Hong Kong. In the short, medium term, we need some measures to retain and attract financial talent. So we're happy to see the second phase of the consumption voucher, and we are also allowing for non-permanent residents to receive the voucher. So using this blueprint, we need to look into our tax regime. Hong Kong has a simple low tax regime. It is an advantage. So to fully utilize our tax regime to attract talent, currently non-permanent residents, when they have to pay 30% tax, so this 30% duty will offset Hong Kong's low tax regime attractiveness, and it in fact hampers our traditional advantages. So I suggest that for other eligible persons who can qualify to become Hong Kong residents, before they become permanent citizens, when they purchase their first unit, the 30% stamp duty could be waived. After becoming a permanent resident, the maximum tax of 4.25, they will have to pay the remaining 27% could be refunded. So after they purchase a unit, if they are not a permanent resident, they cannot get the refund. So it will still stay at 30%. So that can help people settle down in Hong Kong. So there is no financial impact on the government side. It can retain talent. It can strengthen our role as a financial center. As a matter of fact, UK, Singapore, Australia have similar tax refund arrangements. And Hong Kong should learn from these overseas examples. So we ought to provide more tax incentives for attracting talent that can enhance our competitiveness. Thank you, President. Mr. Chun-ying. Thank you, Chairman. Strengthening Hong Kong's role, enhancing competitiveness. We agree with Mr. Jeffrey LAM's suggestions. We see that when we see senior central officials such as Han Zheng, they say Hong Kong should be a financial center. It should be an innovation center that can help China's reform and market reforms. This is something that is irreplaceable. This is one of the most precious functions of Hong Kong. We also see that the CE incumbent, Mr. John Lee, he had stated very clearly that we need to have sustainable development, and the DAB has also agreed with the policy that we need to align ourselves with the national development. We see a lot of uncertainty and even war in the rest of the world. So the capital will have to consider safety and stability. So Hong Kong and the mainland can provide that. Now, we need to enhance our role as a financial center and provide a safe haven for our capital. Especially post-COVID, we can start anew. There are some details I also want to highlight regarding the business environment. We hope that we can remove some bureaucracy and make it more convenient for businesses, and we can attract international investors and talent. On the safety side, we need to, as we return to normalcy after COVID, we need to reopen our borders with the mainland. Our new CE should work on that. So our Hong Kong representatives to the People's Standing Committee, they should reflect Hong Kong's expectations and aspirations. So during the mainland People's Standing Committee meetings, there were no COVID infections. So we can see that we need Hong Kong to open up with the mainland and open up with the rest of the world. That can help stimulate the economy and sustain development. So we hope that we can expend more effort in this area. Regarding attraction of talent, we see that a lot of LegCo members, we have a lot of Hong Kong-born members during had a lot of experience overseas on the mainland. That indicates that we can all benefit from this experience. And I also want to mention that in the 14th five-year plan, the central government wishes Hong Kong to play a more important role in external circulation. So as President Xi said, Hong Kong is irreplaceable, and we can strengthen our role and function as a financial hub. We can enhance our competitiveness, create more jobs and opportunities for the Hong Kong public. Thank you, President.
Well, I support the motions and the amendments, and the financial services industry is an important pillar of Hong Kong, and we are in an offshore renminbi center and a asset management center.
In the dual circulation development, Hong Kong can be a participant and also a facilitator. As we moved into 2022, There was a survey in March, and Hong Kong ranked 3rd, but Shanghai is ranking 4th, and they will surpass Hong Kong very shortly. So the pandemic has affected our economy, and in the first few months, we only had 22 new IPOs, and that was a sharp drop of 90% compared to last year. The big 4 accounting firms estimate that the funds raised will be reduced by 40%. We also have brain drain. We also see sanctions against Hong Kong. All these have a negative impact. But wherever there's crisis, there's opportunity. With the U.S.-Sino conflict, we see a lot of enterprises returning to Hong Kong. The UK is considering issuing new arrangements in the British Virgin Islands. We see the erosion of free capitalist policies. Also, all these are opportunities for Hong Kong. Hong Kong should be a safe haven for capital, but money won't flow into our wallets. The government needs to take the initiative to create a business environment to deal with sanctions, and we also need to prepare our population. We also need to enhance our competitiveness. So I urge the relevant government bureau and department and the financial sector, they have the responsibility to develop their business. Aside from that, I also have the following suggestions. So the confirmed COVID cases have gone up. So we need to prevent the 6th wave, and we need better results in COVID prevention. We need to open our borders with the mainland. Regarding One Belt, One Road countries that wish to set up headquarters in Hong Kong, they need to have tax incentives. And third, we need to streamline listing requirements. So a lot of lawyers tell me that, in fact, they complain that the Hong Kong Exchange questions for listing companies' applications. The questions posed are not conducive to companies listing in Hong Kong. Now, in financial services, we hope that we can have a priority for local talent that can help nurture our local talent. We need to have sufficient local talent to stave off competition and sanctions. And fifth, we need to allow for work visas. So expatriates who wish to work in Hong Kong, they need to be eligible for Hong Kong mainland visa permits. They need to be able to travel in the GBA. We need to allow Hong Kong to be a pool for foreign talent. Now, we have reunited with the mainland for 25 years. We went through the laissez-faire policy of the colonial area. So once again, I urge the government to attract foreign investment and capital. We also need to nurture local talent to enhance our competitiveness, and that can strengthen Hong Kong's role as a financial center. That is my speech.
Dr. Johnny Ng. President, I'm speaking in support of Mr. Jeffrey LAM's motion. The SL government, going forward, must strengthen its policies on economic development and integrate into the national development. We must seize hold of the opportunities of the dual circulation. The 14th Five-Year Plan supports Hong Kong, enhancing its advantages, and there are 8 centers to be set up in Hong Kong. There are numerous opportunities for Hong Kong. In face of the protectionism and unilateralism, Hong Kong is a highly open city. We must insist on multilateralism multilateralism. We are well positioned to join RCEP, and we hope that we can join it as soon as possible. And then SARG must make use of the support by the nation for building Hong Kong into 8 centers. We must deepen relationship between GBA and Hong Kong. I would like to focus on talent training in order to enhance our status as an international financial center. Talent is crucial. Hong Kong has an aging population, and the birth rate is decreasing, and there is an immigration wave in Hong Kong, and there is a brain drain. In face of intense competition for talent, the SAR government must retain local talents, attract overseas talents, and train up local talents so that our talent pool can be expanded to enhance our competitiveness. And last week, I raised a written question on talent last week, and the SLW said that they have no figure on the number of immigrants of Hong Kong to overseas places. So they can, in 2020, the number is net outflow is 96,000 people. Last year's is 27,000 people. The government will continue to highlight Hong Kong's future opportunities so to retain Hong Kong people. People said that the number must be higher. I think it's important for the SL government to further explain Hong Kong's future opportunities. I agree with Mr. Lam's proposal that we should review the talent policy. And in order to enhance the policy, we must first conduct a systematic review and come up with the statistics, including the outflow and inflow of talent, which sectors are lacking talents, so that we grasp the real situation in Hong Kong and strengthen the relevant policies. President, I noticed that in the past year, there has been a shortage in the INT and healthcare sectors, and that's because some people are not happy with Hong Kong's future. But anyway, it will affect Hong Kong's diversified economic development. We hope that the government can do more in attracting talent. Earlier, together with 10 legislators and 32 organizations, I wrote to the SAR government to issue consumption vouchers to people who have not lived in Hong Kong for 7 years but have contributed to Hong Kong. Well, that was heeded to by the government. In fact, a lot of places are attracting talents. Singapore has been very active in attracting investors and students worldwide, and the U.S. has similar policies to attract top-notch talents to the U.S. to contribute to the society there. In order to continue attract capital and talent from around the world, the government can offer tax concessions, cash handouts, and also reactivate, say, the capital investment entrance scheme to attract INT talents to Hong Kong. The SAR government must also be proactive in doing international promotion. Now, recently, people from outside or overseas have misread Hong Kong's situation, and that has affected Hong Kong's image as an international center. So that is posing a negative impact. I so submit. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok. Thank you, President. Last week, when we discussed Ms. Wendy Hong's motion, I said that basic law specifies that Hong Kong should maintain its status as an international financial center. It is our mission, and it's a challenge that we face on a long-term basis. The greatest challenge we face today is the brain drain. In the past couple of weeks, we've heard reports that people are selling off their flats, and there are early withdrawals of MPF contributions, and the HKMA has met with the banking leaders on the issue, and even our chief executive at the end of March said at a press briefing that it is indisputable that there is a brain drain. Now, the government officials might quote today about the general employment policy and the Mainland emission scheme whereby the figures have risen again in 2021 after a drop in 2020, showing that Hong Kong is still attractive to talents. But if the talents are broadened, are we able to retain them? Let me quote an information paper on 2020 from the Electoral Secretariat. First, according to immigration figures, around 12% of the mainlanders coming to Hong Kong have become Hong Kong permanent residents after 7 years. And then in the 10 years between 2021 and 2019, from the US, UK, and Canada, the number has dropped from 72,000 to 54,000. And 2019, for the IANG visas issued to the immigration department, so the number has increased in 65%. But at the same time, for mainland students staying in Hong Kong has risen only by a slight 22%. This shows more mainland students have chosen to leave Hong Kong after graduation. Hong Kong is a highly open economy, and it's just natural that talents come and go. But I'm not asking that talents coming to Hong Kong must stay in Hong Kong. When overseas and mainland talents leave Hong Kong at a higher percentage point, does it mean that, well, Hong Kong's image or reputation is overinflated? I think the government should identify our inadequacies and improve on them. Now, for a short-term solution, we must actually first reopen the borders as soon as possible, because a lot of talents would like to return home from time to time. But then there is the flight suspension mechanism in place, and if they return to their homeland, they might not come back. They might go somewhere else to further their career. Last week, Mrs. Regina Yip asked the in the CEN Q&A session about the reopening of the boundaries with the mainland. Regrettably, CE said that, well, based on the discussion last year, well, there is not possible to reopen the boundaries in a short time. And the CE-elect, Johnny, when he was still the CS4A, he represented the CARG to discuss reopening of the boundaries issues with the mainland. And that he knew very well the conditions for the reopening. And that will help expedite our work in that regard. And then now, the motion says that the current tax regime should be reviewed. Last year, the G7 meeting reached a historic record, and that is to set the corporate tax at 15%, and OECD and the G20 also followed up on this proposal. Hong Kong now, in relation to corporations, partnerships, and sole proprieties, are taxing a profits tax rate of 16.5%, 15%. We won't be affected, but given this is a background, can we further review the tax regime to attract talents and corporations? I have doubts on that. Thank you. Mr. Jimmy Ng. Thank you. President, I would like to thank Mr. Lam for moving this motion, this very meaningful motion. Now, financial services form the basis of all industries and provide financing for various trades. And Hong Kong is an international financial center. Financial services have been an important economic pillar of Hong Kong. It takes up 23.3% of the GDP, providing 270,000 jobs. In simple terms, to strengthen Hong Kong's status as an international center is one of the major contributions that we can make to the country. Recently, I have heard this saying, and that is something on our anti-epidemic measure. We must try to guard against imported cases and resurgence of local cases, and at the same time, we must also because that there are many severe and death cases, even though there has been a rise in infection numbers, the government should not adopt the most stringent measures. I I know that we are in a catch-22 situation, and if we don't deal with the situation properly, that will bring a lot of problems to the market and Hong Kong people. And because of this, whether it's Mr. Jeffrey Lam's original motion and the amendment motions, they share a common goal. And this is what I would say: to facilitate business operations and reopen the borders as soon as possible. As to the specifics, I agree with Mr. Lam, say that we should facilitate a business-friendly environment to properly address the business needs amid the epidemic. Some other legislators said that we should discuss quarantine-free travel arrangements, review the flight suspension mechanism so that we can resume liaison with the mainland and international markets. Now, Hong Kong is an international financial center, and we have really been closing ourselves for too long. And the financial sector is vulnerable to external factors. Hong Kong, we don't have a large market. We rely on international financing. Now, because of the linked exchange rate, we don't have much say in terms of our currency policy. So there are limited tools and instruments that we can leverage on. And if we can't resume immediately liaison with overseas countries, then we might face a brain drain and a outflow of capital. And countries with ulterior motive would like capital to flow out of China. Well, as a result, our status as an international financial center may be undermined. Singapore has been trying to grasp the opportunities here, and this is worrying. China provides strong backing for Hong Kong's efforts in maintaining our status as an international financial center. On the 30th of last month, Li Keqiang met Mr. John Lee, and he said that he supports Hong Kong's efforts in and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, shipping center, INT center, and enhance our competitiveness. So financial center ranks top among the 3 centers mentioned by him. So I believe that we will not disappoint the central authorities.
Ms. Chen Yutming. Thank you, Mr. President. I thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for moving this motion on strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center and enhancing its competitiveness, so that I have this opportunity to take part in this debate. I speak in support of this motion to strengthen and consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, and that through the through the latest development plan of the country, we can enhance our status. Hong Kong enjoys the advantage of one country, 2 systems, and that is why we can establish ourselves as an international financial center. We have a simple tax regime with free flow of capital in and out of Hong Kong, and we have the mainland as the hinterland, and we are also in the midst of a very busy transport hub globally. As a result, we're able to enjoy the advantages of setting up ourselves as an international asset management center. And we also enjoy the facilitation measures offered by the mainland. And in 2004, we were able to develop an offshore renminbi business. And then subsequently, we also launched these various stock connect schemes. As in 2021, the total market size in Hong Kong takes up a share of $4.1 trillion, and that's 41% coming from the mainland. Over the years, we have become the major springboard for mainland enterprises to go global, and we're also the largest offshore renminbi business hub. And it is also a unique channel for investors to tap the mainland market. The 14th Five-Year Plan also categorically supports Hong Kong as an international financial center, and that we should diversify financial development. In terms of financial services, we enjoy advantages as well as having support from the central authorities. Despite all that, we still need to have a flexible and healthy policy to maintain our status as an IFC. In 2013, there was an instance in which a weighted voting share company could not get listed in Hong Kong. In the end, the company was listed in the US. In 2018, this policy was gradually relaxed. The Hong Kong should keep pace with international development and have constant reviews. At the moment, we also have flight suspension mechanism. The policy intent is to prevent importation of cases. However, it's been almost 3 years and we haven't been able to achieve zero infection. For overseas talents, they are either stranded elsewhere, or they must go through a long period of quarantine before they could enter the territory. As a result, these talents have opted to go elsewhere. According to a survey, 25% of the member companies of a Chamber of Commerce are contemplating leaving Hong Kong in the coming year. We must resume quarantine-free travel arrangements in order to keep our edge, or otherwise very soon our competitors will catch up with us. In terms of strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center, my expectation is for Hong Kong to follow the directions laid down by the 14th Five-Year Plan, and that should also be a detailed plan setting out timetable and targets. Well, in the future, there would be focus on financial services in the southern side and I&T on the northern side. However, this would lead to a homogeneous economic structure. The Northern Metropolis Development Strategy would also bring synergy. As the hub of GBA, we can build a livable space that also offers advantages in tourism, and we can also address the issue of job mismatch. It will also help GBA in creating a window, and in this way it can bolster our competitive edge. I so submit. Ms. Nixie Lam. Mr. President, Dr. Kennedy Wong is now in quarantine. He is unable to attend today's meeting, so I will speak on his behalf since he attaches great importance to this motion debate. We have a lot of multinational corporations and financial talents in Hong Kong, and we also enjoy a unique advantage as having Mainland as our hinterland, and we should continue to enhance the competitive edge and grasp the opportunities offered by the 14th Five-Year Plan and the GBA Outline Development Plan so that we can integrate better into our country's development plan. At the moment, the political situation around the world is so complex, we must properly manage our risk. Hong Kong is an international financial center, so we can work on investment products, enterprise financing, and other areas, and provide services to the mainland. In terms of financial products being developed, in terms of apart from having different trading centers for securities, precious metals, etc., we should also allow trading in virtual assets and commodities, etc. Virtual assets is a rapidly developing trend around the world, with a lot of investors joining the game, and in fact, virtual assets bring a lot of opportunity to the I&T sector. To allow virtual assets to develop in an orderly manner in Hong Kong, recently the government conducted a consultation on the regulatory regime, for example, a licensing regime for the dealers and also stable coin. And there are guidelines for traditional financial services industry to provide services to virtual assets traders. In fact, I suggest that we set up rules so that for virtual asset dealing, we have rules to follow for the long-term and stable development of the industry. Well, because of limited resources, we should also allow commodities trading on precious metals, farm produce, etc. We have a narrower scope compared to other countries. In 2020, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange also conducted a study on commodity trading in Hong Kong, and There was a suggestion on the relevant licensing arrangements with the dovetailing with the mainland system, and then we can further expand the scope of wealth management connect, so that there could be a cross-boundary commodity trading. Well, we need cooperation between the Hong Kong regulators and the mainland counterparts. However, since the launch of the study, we haven't seen any follow-up. The mainland is one of the major consumer markets of commodity trading, and Hong Kong enjoys this unique advantage, and we can help facilitate development of this market in the mainland. In the 14th five-year plan, there is also the central authority support to set up an R&D center in Hong Kong. We also need to make good use of AI, cloud computing, blockchain, cybersecurity. These are all emerging digital industries. Ma Yuan from Alibaba once said that data collection is an essential part and the most precious part of any purchase. And through this online shopping platform, we can make use of this precious big data. So the government should open up big data as well, so that all the data are quantifiable and that we can assess the consumer patterns and conduct risk assessment. And we should step up our effort in big data trading, so that with policy support we can help Hong Kong economy transform and provide and contribute to establishing a more diversified international financial center. Mr. Dominic Lee, first I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving this motion on strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an IOC and enhancing its competitiveness. We are an international financial center, and every year we're able to attract more talents to come and live and work here. Well, in terms of the flow of capital and talents in and out of Hong Kong, because of the epidemic in recent years, they have been affected, and this is the right opportunity for Mr. Jeffrey LAM to move this motion for us to have a discussion on the issue and find a way out for Hong Kong. Now, according to this motion, there are calls for quarantine-free travel arrangements with the mainland to be implemented, and when the epidemic eases further, relax the quarantine arrangements and review the current tax regime and encouraging more foreign investment. And apart from these suggestions, I say we also need to provide more better living conditions to attract talents to come. Demographia conducted a study in 2020, and according to this website survey, in terms of housing affordability, we ranked the bottom. So we all understand that property prices in Hong Kong are in the stratosphere. If we are to attract more talents to come to Hong Kong, we need to make reference to the mainland policy, and that is there will be dedicated accommodation for talents to address the housing issue. In other words, the government will fund housing production and provide the necessary accommodation for foreign talents. Likewise, based on our needs, we can set up a scoring mechanism, and we can also consider different places, and that depending on the locations and the needs of households, we can set up similar accommodation. In fact, for the so-called talents guest house in Shenzhen, after years of implementation, they have begun to yield results. So I believe in the North District, we can also set up similar accommodation for talents. The government is the policymaker. I hope that in the future there will be more frequent exchange with the financial services industry, so that the government will have a better idea of the needs of their talents and their expectation. The industry, meanwhile, will have a better understanding of the policy objectives of the government. After all, Hong Kong is an international financial center. We have a simple and low tax regime. We have good legal system. And in fact, yesterday, according to IMD's World Competitiveness Index, we ranked number 5 around the world. So if we're able to step up promotion and explain our advantages. For example, we can also have talent recruitment by ETOs around the world, and we can also promote our business environment. I believe that when the epidemic eases, we'll be able to attract more talents and corporations to come to Hong Kong to live and work here. Once again, I thank Mr. Jeffrey Lam for moving this motion. I so submit.
President, Hong Kong had been recognized as a financial hub for many years, but in recent years, we have been facing challenges from other jurisdictions and we're suffering a brain drain. If we don't respond, we'll have profound impact. We cannot deny there's a brain drain. We have to leverage our advantages of connections with the mainland. A lot of Asian headquarters are set in Hong Kong for that reason. Some companies have relocated to Singapore, and senior managers have applied to relocate to other countries. So their families will relocate with them. So in the future, they might not want to return to Hong Kong. So that has a profound impact. So with the brain drain, the job drain, we also see capital flight. This will all shake Hong Kong's position as a financial hub. So while maintaining strict COVID measures, we need to fine-tune our quarantine policy. We need to reopen borders with the mainland. We need to facilitate trade with the rest of the world and mainland. Now, in recent years, we had a drop of immigrants coming to Hong Kong. The talent scheme applications, only 12% have applied for permanent residence after staying in Hong Kong for 7 years. So that indicates that the mainlanders don't have a large desire to stay in Hong Kong. We need to attract talent. They are the most valuable asset, and given our global competition, it is ultimately a talent war. So we have a lot of students studying in Hong Kong. They are studying or majoring in the fintech industry. They need to have international perspective. So the government needs to review its different talent scheme. They need to make it convenient for different people to study and stay in Hong Kong. Currently, our talent recruitment scheme is conducted through our immigration policies, but we lack incentives compared to Shenzhen. For example, on Shenzhen, they have housing allowance, cash allowances, and they might even have education infrastructure to satisfy their different needs. They can settle down very comfortably in Shenzhen. So in Hong Kong, they have to pay taxes, but they will need to pay double stamp duty if they have stayed in Hong Kong for less than 7 years. So we need to be more flexible in our talent attraction scheme. We need to attract talent from around the world, and we need to exert greater influence in the finance sector. Now, the government had announced an adjustment of the consumption voucher scheme. People who are eligible for permanent residence, people studying in Hong Kong, people working in Hong Kong, they can receive half of the consumption voucher. Now, I welcome this, and I welcome the government's adoption of our feedback. President, that is my speech. I support Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion and other amendments. Mr. President, Hong Kong can be a financial center. That is because it can attract talent from Asia Pacific and even the rest of the world. But social unrest in the last few years and the pandemic has led to a brain drain. So how do we attract people to develop a career in Hong Kong? How do we enhance our competitiveness? This is paramount. So where do people choose to develop their career? Well, it depends on a lot of criteria, but Hong Kong has excellent hardware, software. It is attractive to talent, but whether they choose to relocate to Hong Kong, it might depend on two factors. That is, whether we have any tax incentives, whether there's room for development, and second, whether we have convenient border controls, immigration controls. They need to travel to develop their business. So these 2 points are exactly the areas where SAR government needs to do a better job. Now, with BEPS, the tax regime that is about to be enacted, our low tax regime might be affected. Now, given the macro conditions, the government has provided different tax incentives, including the Financial Secretary, Mr. Paul Chan. In this year's budget, he has proposed tax incentives for family wealth management offices and so on. So the government's tax incentives, I will express support for that decision. But the SAR government, when it rolls out these policies, compared to our major competitors such as Singapore, you can say it's only equivalent at best, and sometimes it might even fall short of what Singapore is doing. Family trust offices, their income, they have a very wide scope of tax-free arrangements. So a lot of these family trusts have chosen to relocate to Singapore. So we need more aggressive policies compared to Singapore. So aside from tax policies, how do we meet quarantine requirements and yet make it convenient for visitors and travelers to leave and enter Hong Kong? Well, a lot of foreign talent are unwilling to come to Hong Kong right now. They are not able to work in Hong Kong. They cannot handle their business. And Hong Kong is now an isolated territory. I know that we have to strike a balance between quarantine and the economic development, but how do we relax travel requirements? My colleague has already spoken, so I don't want to repeat those points. So even if we cannot open our borders, we need to have certain relaxation. Professionals who have business in Hong Kong and the mainland, if they have 3 vaccinations, if they are using the Hong Kong vaccination passport and the mainland vaccination passport, they should be allowed to travel. Miss Judy Chan. Miss Judy Chan. Thank you, President. Hong Kong's niche has always been to leverage our connection with the mainland. Our workforce is hardworking, and we've developed into a financial center. Now, in light of the pandemic and the global new order, Hong Kong needs to become an innovator. So I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM I have to thank Mr. Lam for his motion of strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. Now, the mainland, they have called for dual circulation. They are calling for rapid economic development, the focus being the internal circulation and global external circulation being the latest theme for development. So the mainland economy's rapid development will be a large engine for development. Now, the central government supports Hong Kong's efforts in enhancing our role as a financial center. So we need to be the hub for offshore renminbi trading and wealth management and risk management. We need to strengthen and expand the financial ties, the through train of capital between Hong Kong and the mainland. At the same time, we need to make good use of innovation technology. We need to attract talent. We need more applications of cross-border financial technology. President, according to Clause 109 of the Basic Law, SAR government needs to provide economic incentives and the rule of law to maintain our status. Now, in the past, we've suffered social unrest up till the enactment of national security laws. That after the enactment of these security laws allowed society to stabilize. So we see that when we have a stable social order, capital can be preserved, development can be sustained. Now, I also note that Mr. Chun-ying's amendment recommends that the government should Hong Kong should keep an eye on our regional competitors. We have to look at these jurisdictions. We should conduct analysis and come up with catch-up plans if necessary, because in March this year, the global survey reported that Hong Kong's ranking was third, but our cumulative score had come down a bit. So even though New York had a larger fall in the ratings, we still see a significant shortfall. So we need to work on our deficiencies and further fine-tune our efforts to ensure that investors can have a free flow of capital between Hong Kong and mainland to enhance our competitiveness. I support the original motion.
Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Jeffrey Lam, you may now speak on the amendments.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Ronick Chan, for his amendments regarding how we need to adjust our quarantine measures. We need to review our airline policies. Now, we do have Omicron variants. We cannot be complacent. Well, we can learn from overseas experience, and if the confirmed cases come down in Hong Kong, we can further fine-tune our quarantine measures. We can relax the quarantine requirements, and we can also review our airline policies, and we can reopen our borders with the mainland and the rest of the world. We can kickstart the economy. Now, Mr. Rock Chen also talked about the offshore renminbi trading pool, enhancing Hong Kong's role as center for Renminbi offline trading. I also support that amendment. The 14th five-year plan confirmed that Hong Kong's role in the national development. It included enhancing Hong Kong's role as a financial center. It supports Hong Kong's role as a offshore renminbi trading center. And we have been calling for the government to develop green finance, sustainable finance. Mr. Chen also said that we need to keep an eye on our competitors and what they are doing regarding talent, infrastructure. We need to identify our shortfalls. I think that is important as well. Now, there are different rankings and surveys. However, we need to take the initiative. We need to do a better job than our competitors to enhance our competitiveness. The CE incumbent says that when he takes office, he will meet with, he will form delegates to visit our business partners around the world. We need to attract business and investment. So I think government officials and the business sector need to understand the policies of our other jurisdictions around the world. We need to take advantage of Hong Kong's advantages, and we need to tell the Hong Kong story effectively. Mr. Robert Lee also talked about retaining talent. Now, we believe that these are interlinked. If you want to attract talent to Hong Kong, we need to have sufficient international school teachers. So my original motion mentioned retaining talent across the territory. Now, I also believe that the government needs to cater to the different business needs. This is a call that has resonated throughout society, throughout all sectors. Now, it not only affects employers, it also affects employees. It also touches upon our competitiveness. Now, the Honorable Lee Wai-Wang amended some important wording. Let me read it out once again. We urge the government to cater to the different business needs across the different sectors, and based on that, I cannot support Lee Wai-Wang's amendment. Thank you, President. That concludes my speech.
Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury. Thank you, President. First, I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving the motion and the 4 members for moving amendments, as well as other members who have spoken and gave valuable views on how to strengthen and consolidate Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. I will make a consolidated reply, and our CEDB colleague will respond to suggestions on the business environment. Like I said at the outset, to consolidate Hong Kong's leading status as an international financial center, the SAR government will capitalize on Hong Kong's unique position outlined in the country's 14th five-year plan and use the GBA as an entry point to serve as a key link in the dual circulation framework. The SAR government has rolled out a host of measures to vigorously promote development of the various facets of the financial sector. On mutual access between the financial market on the mainland Hong Kong, the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock connects have developed rapidly in the past few years. In 2021, daily transactions under the northbound trading of Shanghai Stock Connect and Shenzhen Stock Connect amounted to an average of Renminbi 55.2 billion and Renminbi 65 billion respectively, up 40% and 20% over 2020. Daily transactions of southbound trading reached 21.8 20.1 billion Hong Kong dollars and 21.6 billion Hong Kong dollars, up 50% and 90% over 2020. Since their launch, northbound trading has brought a net inflow of 1.6 trillion renminbi to the mainland stock market, and the southbound trading brought a net inflow of 2.3 trillion Hong Kong dollars into the Hong Kong stock market. In May this year, regulatory departments in both places announced that eligible ETFs, exchange-traded funds, will also be included in the mutual access regime. The stock exchanges and depository and clearing institutions of the two places are making preparations for the official launch. Moreover, the Cross-Boundary Wealth Management Connect for GBA was launched in September last year, and banks commenced the relevant business in October the same year. We will explore ways of enhancing the relevant measures based on actual operation experience and market response. To further develop offshore renminbi financial products available in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is the largest renminbi offshore center to further develop offshore renminbi financial products available in Hong Kong and enhance demand for the issuance and trading of renminbi securities by the market. The Securities and Futures Commission, SFC, Hong Kong Exchange and Clearing Limited, Hong Kong Exchange, and Hong Kong Monetary Authority, HKMA, set up a working group last year to conduct a feasibility study on allowing stocks traded via southbound trading of stock connect to be denominated in renminbi. The working group is undertaking the preparatory work and liaising with the mainland regulatory authorities. The government will roll out supporting measures to increase the liquidity of renminbi-denominated stocks and make preparation for the necessary legislative amendments. Looking ahead, we will continue to explore with the sector and mainland authorities to expand channels for two-way flow of cross-boundary renminbi funds, promote the development of offshore renminbi products and tools, to support the development of an offshore renminbi market and enhance Hong Kong's status as a global offshore renminbi business hub. On securities market, Hong Kong ranks fourth in the funds raised by IPO in 2021. And every day the transaction amount is 1.67 billion Hong Kong dollars, and that is up 29% compared to 2020. The listing regime for overseas issuers was further enhanced in January 2022, including allowing Greater China companies without weighted voting rights structure and which are from traditional sectors to seek secondary listing in Hong Kong and offering more flexibility to issuers seeking dual primary listings. In the same month, the Hong Kong established the listing regime for special purpose acquisition companies, SPACs, broadening the channels for enterprises to seeking fund financing and listing in Hong Kong. 81 applications were received from January to May this year. Considering that some large-scale advanced technology enterprises requiring substantial capital for their R&D work but are not qualified for listing are in need of funds, the SFC and the Hong Kong are reviewing the main board listing rules, having due regard to the risks involved, to revise requirements to meet such enterprises' fundraising needs. On bond market, Hong Kong has for 6 years in a row ranked first in the terms of the value of bonds raised. And in 2021, the bond issued amounted to $206.8 billion US dollars. We will implement the recommendations of the Steering Committee on Bond Market Development in Hong Kong progressively, including launching the inaugural 20-year Hong Kong dollar government bond under the government bond program. The government has expanded the scale of the government green bond program, doubling the borrowing ceiling to $200 billion. The government will also issue green bonds totaling around $175.5 billion within the 5 years from 2020 2021 to 22, having regard to the market situation. In addition, we have launched the inaugural retail green bond for public subscription in April 2022 to further development of the local retail bond market. To spur development of Hong Kong's bond market, we have actively promoted issuance of multiple types of bonds in multiple currencies. Tax concessions implemented to attract bond issuers in the region to issue bonds in the Hong Kong market. Following the annual Renminbi sovereign bond issuance by the Ministry of Finance in Hong Kong for 14 years consecutively since 2009, and the established regular mechanism of central bank bill issuance in Hong Kong by the People's Bank of China, the Shenzhen Municipal People's Government issued offshore renminbi municipal government bonds in Hong Kong in October 2021. This is the first time a mainland municipal government issues bonds outside the mainland, and the SAR government has also issued for the first time EU Eurozone denominated bonds. Concerning interest paid or profit received arising from the debt instruments issued in Hong Kong by the Shenzhen Municipal People's Government, the relevant profits tax will be exempted on asset management. Towards the end of 2020, our asset and wealth management was valued at $4.5 trillion, up 21% compared to the previous years. As a cross-boundary asset management center, Hong Kong ranks second in the world and first across Asia. The government proposed to provide tax concessions for the eligible family investment management entities managed by single-family offices. We are formulating the legislative proposals and aim to introduce the amendment bill into the electrical in the second half of this year. On MPF, we are working in full steam on the development of the eMPF platform in order to enable sequential and orderly onboarding of trustees and their MPF schemes to the platform starting April 2023 at the earliest, and making the eMPF platform fully functional in 2025. The government also amended the relevant regulation to include the Central People's Government, the People's Bank of China, and 3 mainland policy banks as exempt authority to facilitate MPF investment in securities unconditionally guaranteed issued by the mainland authorities. On insurance, our insurance density ranks second around the world, first in Asia. We have implemented a raft of measures since last year to promote the development of the insurance sector. Earlier, we saw the second issuance of insurance-linked securities ILS in Hong Kong amounting to $150 million to strengthen Hong Kong's function as an international risk management center. Every eligible applicant for the pilot insurance-linked securities grant scheme will be given a maximum subsidy of 12 million Hong Kong dollars. We have also established via legislative means a dedicated regulatory regime for ILS in order to build a vibrant ILS ecosystem. On promoting green and sustainable finance, in 2021, the green and sustainable bonds issued in Hong Kong reached $3.13 billion, 4 times that of the previous years and taking 1/3 of the Asian market. We would adopt a multi-pronged approach in driving the sector's development. A cross-agency steering group formed by the relevant policy bureaus and regulatory authorities is taking forward many initiatives to further develop and consolidate Hong Kong's green finance ecosystem, including studying establishing a green classification framework for adoption by the local market and bring Hong Kong in line with international best practices. The steering group also published in March 2022 a preliminary feasibility assessment for Hong Kong to pursue carbon market opportunities, suggesting that Hong Kong be developed into an international premier voluntary carbon market. It is considering which market and regulatory model would be the most appropriate and will chart the way forward after consulting experts and relevant departments. In promoting fintech, we signed a memorandum of understanding in October last year with the People's Bank of China on provision of a one-stop platform for testing cross-boundary fintech projects on Hong Kong and GBA simultaneously. Over 20 finance and technology companies have shown interest in getting on the platform. In addition, we will launch the new round of the FinTech Proof of Concept Subsidy Scheme this year to promote continuous innovation by encouraging the financial industry to conduct proof of concept projects on more financial services and products. Some members suggested improving the financial regulatory system to better meet market development needs. Given the complicated global environment in recent years, the SAR government fully understands that financial security is the foundation for national security and development, and it is closely related to maintaining Hong Kong's prosperity and stability. We will continue to adopt the bottom line mentality and get prepared to face the worst. In fact, we are striving to promote market development while controlling risks as much as possible. Just like I said, the SPAC listing regime and the listing system for overseas issuers enhancement measures to be launched this year are examples of efforts to strike a balance between protecting investors' rights and risk and fostering financial development. A note member said that we should actively promote Hong Kong's advantages internationally. We agree with that. Despite the impact of the global epidemic, the SAR government has been promoting Hong Kong's positive image internationally and on the mainland through various channels. We attend online meetings to keep liaising with different parts of the world. Say, for example, Mr. Hui, at the end of last month and yesterday, met online, respectively, with business leaders in Malaysia and Sydney to brief them on Hong Kong's growth in wealth management, fintech, and green finance, as well as opportunities for Hong Kong to strengthen collaboration with ASEAN and Australia on different financial spheres. I myself, yesterday and the day before yesterday, met with financial practitioners in the US and Singapore and brief them on Hong Kong's latest developments on fintech and securities markets. Moreover, Hong Kong X and the financial regulators are arranging for overseas visits. The Hong Kong ex-chairman attended the World Economic Forum in Davos of Switzerland in May, and HKMA and IA have attended international conferences in recent months to connect with their overseas counterparts and businesses to publicize Hong Kong's development and opportunities. We will strengthen our work in this area. Some members are also concerned about Hong Kong's competitiveness compared with other financial markets. Like I said in the outset, I have mentioned the IMF rating and the Global Financial Centers Index. We keep close tabs on rating and reports from international bodies, academic institutions, and other rating bodies on Hong Kong's financial sector. We will study these reports and analyze the relevant content and improve on areas when required. We will keep abreast of changes in the global economic development and other financial centers and strive to sharpen Hong Kong's edge. President, the SAR government understands that to strengthen Hong Kong's international financial center status so as to drive Hong Kong's long-term economic growth, we should not just work on the financial sector, but also take forward other policy initiatives, say in our tax system, talent policy, inbound control measures under the epidemic and business environment. And so that we can enhance Hong Kong's overall competitiveness, improve business environment. On our tax regime, Hong Kong has a simple and low tax regime, which is a major attraction in Hong Kong's business environment and for drawing investment and talents. Hong Kong adopts a territorial source principle of taxation and levies profits tax, property tax, and salary tax respectively on business profits, rental income, and employees' income. Hong Kong does not collect value-added tax or sales tax, capital gain tax, withholding tax for dividend or interest, or estate tax. To lessen tax burden on businesses, particularly SMEs and startups, the government implemented the two-tier profits tax in April 2018 to benefit various sectors. And starting the 2018-19 year of assessment, the tax around 93,000 taxpayers benefited, achieving a total of saving of $5.7 billion. On financial services, I mentioned that we proposed tax concessions for single-family office. We also offered various tax concessions in the past 2 years, including profit tax concessions for privately issued funds, half-rate profits tax concessions for eligible insurance business for marine and specialty insurance, as well as tax concessions for carried interest of qualifying private equity funds operating in Hong Kong. These are all to enhance Hong Kong's competitiveness. On talent policy, to drive Hong Kong's value-added and diversified economic development, Hong Kong works on 5 major areas, including nurturing local talents, promoting training and retraining, training up I&T talents, unleashing Hong Kong's potential labor force, and attracting mainland and overseas talents to meet our present and future needs for talents. On nurturing financial talent, the first batch of fintech professional qualifications for the banking sector will be rolled out this year. We will also conduct a consultancy study to continue developing fintech professional qualifications for different financial sectors to promote professional development of fintech talent. Further, a new round of the Financial Practitioners Fintech Training Program was implemented in February 2022, comprising the webinar series and incentive scheme. The webinar series has attracted application from over 7,100 financial practitioners, and at least 10 training programs organized by trade associations are expected to benefit from the incentive scheme. We also plan to launch a 3-year pilot green and sustainable finance capacity building support scheme to provide subsidies for the training and acquisition of relevant professional qualifications to encourage practitioners in the financial and other sectors to participate. And for ESG talents and asset management talents and fintech talents are also included in the talent list. And emissions policies will be implemented to facilitate their entry to attract talents from all over the world. On inbound travel control measures, as the global pandemic situation persists, stringent inbound control measures are needed to guard against the importation of cases. And the government has already suitably adjusted the boarding, quarantine, and testing arrangements applicable to persons arriving, including adjusting the quarantine period for arrivals in April to align it with the quarantine period for local close contacts, i.e. at least 7 days. In May, we also allow non-Hong Kong residents to enter Hong Kong, and we add in the rapid antigen test during the test and hold process, and we also adjusted the route-specific flight suspension mechanism. In June, we also fine-tuned the test arrangements for boarding for travelers coming to Hong Kong. While managing the risk as far as possible, we would respond to needs of the business. We would liaise with the overseas businesses and draw talents from overseas. The SAR government will strive to further control the epidemic and create favorable conditions for allowing quarantine-free travel. In offering a business-friendly environment and address business needs during the epidemic, the Undersecretary for Commerce and Economic Development will respond to members' suggestions. My gratitude once again to Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving today's motion and members for moving amendments and for speaking so that we can explore the relevant issues together. The SAR government looks forward to continue communicating and cooperating with members and work together to enhance Hong Kong's status as an international finance center. President, I so submit. I'll now invite the Undersecretary for Commerce and Economic Development to speak.
Undersecretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Mr. President, first of all, I thank Mr. Jeffrey LAM for moving the motion and for 4 other members to move their amendments and 22 other members who have spoken. Hong Kong enjoys a business advantage of being a highly globalized city. It is always a popular place for multinational corporations and investors to set up their presence and attract global talents to Hong Kong. In face of the daunting challenge to our economy brought by the pandemic, the government has stepped up support for enterprises. Apart from maintaining a favorable business environment, we also introduced counter-cyclical measures to provide relief to enterprises. and boosted their competitiveness. I'm going to give an overview of the business facilitation and support measures of our Bureau. Due to the pandemic in the past 2 years, many SMEs are experiencing cash flow squeeze. In the end of 2019 and April 2020, the government launched a 90% guarantee and 100% special loan guarantee product under the SME Financing Guarantee Scheme and has since made a number of enhancements. For example, so far, about $90 billion of loans have been approved under the 100% special loan guarantee product, benefiting over 30,000 enterprises. We also help enterprises tap new business opportunities. The government injected $7 billion into the SME Export Marketing Fund and Bud Fund and substantially increased the maximum subsidy amount and expanded the scope to encourage more SMEs to take part in local marketing efforts and tap overseas markets. On supporting the export trade, the Hong Kong Export Credit Insurance Corporation earlier implemented a number of measures including premium discount, free pre-shipment cover, and expediting claims settlement. As at the end of May 2020, over $1.3 billion of credit limits were uplifted. The ECIC also launched a 100% credit limit top-up scheme in 2020, proactively uplifting the credit limits of over 1,000 or $23 billion worth of shipments. The ECIC also implemented the Export Credit Guarantees Program on a pilot basis in March to provide guarantee up to 70% of the export financing of its policyholders to facilitate financing. The tourism industry has come to a standstill because of the epidemic. The government has been providing support through different means, including financial support and other schemes to a tune of about $4.5 billion. Apart from direct subsidies, the government also creates capacity for the industry under the premise of epidemic control and disease prevention. On creative industries, the CDB has been supporting them through the Create Smart Initiative and Film Development Fund. The government has so far injected $3 billion into the above schemes. Apart from supporting affected enterprises, we also encourage foreign investment to bring impetus to economic development. In line with the 14th Five-Year Plan and Hong Kong's status to drive high-quality development in the Greater Bay Area, the Invest Hong Kong will step up its effort to enhance our investment network in the mainland and overseas. We've also been actively cooperating with the relevant policy bureau to set up promotion of various talents admission schemes to attract global talents. The ETOs also proactively make good use of, online platforms, social media, to promote Hong Kong's advantages. They also hold business seminars in universities to brief students and graduates on career opportunities in Hong Kong. In order to attract high-quality talents more effectively and with precision, the government formulated the Hong Kong talent list, and we also step up manpower for Invest Hong Kong to mount strategic promotion in key markets, including the mainland, Europe, North America, and Asian countries, to promote our development opportunities and attract talents. Although we're not able to carry out face-to-face promotion activities under the current epidemic, we continue to maintain the external liaison. For example, we correspond with overseas counterparts, we publish articles in the media, we also host and join webinars to promote Hong Kong to the various stakeholders. After resumption of international flights, we're going to conduct more duty visits and promote Hong Kong to the world, as this year marks the 25th anniversary of the Hong Kong SAR. We will take part in celebration and promotion events, attend international conferences and forums, lead delegations to visit Belt and Road countries, and lead the business sector, including SMEs and professional bodies, on duty visits to promote Hong Kong. And we will also support the sector in tapping mainland and overseas market opportunities. All in all, the SAR government will continue to create favorable conditions to facilitate early discovery of our economy and maintain Hong Kong's leading position as a global business hub. Mr. President, I so submit. I now call upon Mr. Rock Chan to move an amendment. Mr. President, I move my amendment. I propose a question to you that Mr. Rock Chan's amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members who are present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Ronnie Chan, as Mr. Rock Chan's amendment has been passed, you may move your further amendment. Mr. President, I move my further amendment. I propose a question to you that Mr. Ronnie Chan's further amendment be passed. Will those in favor please raise your hands? Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the two groups of members present. I declare the amendment passed. Mr. Robert Lee, as the amendments of Mr. Rock Chan and Mr. Ronnie Chan have been passed, you may move your further amendment. Mr. President, I move my further amendment. I propose the question to you that Mr. Robert Lee's further amendment be passed. Dr. Lloyd proclaims the division. The bell will ring for 5 minutes.
開始表決。
Voting begins. Ms. Judy Chen, are you going to vote? Please check your votes. If there is no question, the voting is closed. The results are displayed. From ECs, 25 present, 12 for, 4 against, 9 abstentions. From FCs and GCs, 35 present, 24, 6 against, 8 abstentions. The question is not agreed by the majority of each of the 2 groups of members who are present. I declare the amendment negative. As Dr. Stephen Wong is not here, his amendment will not be dealt with. Mr. Jeffrey Lam, you have 1 minute to reply. The debate will come to a close.
Thank you, President. I have to thank 21 members who have spoken on strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status as an international financial center. There were also 3 amendments proposed by members. Our colleagues come from different sectors and have different background. So I'm very happy that regarding strengthening and consolidating Hong Kong's status, enhancing wealth and competitiveness, so on, they have provided a lot of valuable feedback and illustrates that our legislative spectrum is wide and far-reaching. So under the leadership of the central government, we'll see more and more opportunities. We have to leverage our advantage or connection with the mainland. We have to strengthen our role as a financial center. We have to reduce bureaucracy. We have to review the tax regime. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
And I'll put the question to you that Mr. Jeffrey Lam's motion as amended by Mr. Rock Chen and Mr. Chun-ying be passed. Will those in favor please raise your hands? Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of each of the 2 groups of members present. I declare the motion as amended passed. I now adjourn the Council. The Council will resume on Wednesday, the 22nd of June 2022 at 11 a.m.